arguably, depending on who you ask, the king of parody films, Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks has been around for years and years and years and decades. He's done many, many great things. But my number one favorite Mel Brooks movie, without a doubt, is Spaceballs. I love Spaceballs. Spaceballs is probably my favorite parody movie of all time. Not just the riff off Star Wars and Star Trek, but the sci-fi films of that time in general. It's brilliant in my mind. I think it's hilarious. It still holds up to today. And in the first Spaceballs movie, they're very meta, and they have a joke where they talk about doing a sequel, The Search for More Money, which has become an infamous line for Spaceball fans. The search for more money. When are we going to get Spaceballs 2? The search for more money. You can find many articles and many things online looking for that answer. Well, it looks like today is that day, my friends, because surprisingly, I was not anticipating this whatsoever. A story came out that Josh Gad and Mel Brooks and a bunch of other people are teaming up to do Spaceballs 2. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Spaceballs sequel is in the works from Josh Gad, Mel Brooks at Amazon MGM. The Schwartz is with Amazon MGM Studios, where a sequel to the 1980s parody film Spaceballs is in early development. The Hollywood Reporter can confirm. Josh Gad and Mel Brooks are producing the project that has Gad attached to star. Josh Greenbaum is helming the comedy from a script by Gad Benji, Samet, and Dan Herenza. Plot details for the sequel to the Star Wars spoof and comedy feature have not been shared. Kevin Salter will serve as executive producer on the new one. Now, if you guys are thinking, okay, what's Spaceballs? Who are these people? I know Josh Gad, but these guys, who are these guys? Well, here's something to get you excited. Writing partners Samet and Hernandez are known for their work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, Addams Family 2, and the forthcoming Disney Plus Lucasfilm special, Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. Originally released by MGM in 1987, a decade after George Lucas' sci-fi classic Star Wars debuted to make a cultural smash, defining smash. Spaceballs starred Bill Pullman, John Candy, Rick Moranis, and Daphne Zuniga, as well as the voice role for Joan Rivers as the C-3PO parody. You put some respect on Dot's name. The film earned $38.1 million at the box office and wasn't exactly a hit with critics, where it earned mixed reviews, yada yada. We are getting a Spaceballs 2. Now, I'll tell you where my mind goes immediately when I hear this. Yeah. No! Don't ruin Spaceballs. Don't touch it. It's perfect. Mel Brooks is 97. Just let it rest. He probably won't even be... I don't want to get dark, but he probably won't even make it through the shooting of the second one. So just leave it alone.
Oh my God. I don't want to make it dark. Go to darkest lane possible.
I'm just saying that's where my mind immediately goes, right? It goes to the I love Spaceballs, don't ruin Spaceballs. When I calm down and I think about it, it is the perfect time for Spaceballs 2. It is the perfect opportunity to do Spaceballs 2, because as mentioned before, Spaceballs is very much, yes, a riff on Star Wars and Star Trek of that time, but it's also a riff of the sci-fi genre in general of that time. You've got some Alien in there, you've got some Planet of the Apes in there. The more sci-fi I watch of that era, the more I get out of Spaceballs, and that's kind of what I love about Spaceballs 2, is there's always something new to discover with it.
References.
And yeah, references, exactly. And when you look at where we are today, not just with our sci-fi in general, but with the environment of Star Wars, with the fandoms with Star Trek, there is so much with Spaceballs 2 that if you get good writers, which writers from Mutant Mayhem, writers from Detective Pikachu, yeah, those are great. And the Lego Star Wars projects, they're lesser known. I'll watch them occasionally because they're funny. Like some of those Lego Star Wars are really clever and really funny shorts to watch. So already on board. You've got some great writers with this. Josh Gad, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of Josh Gad. I also wouldn't say that I'm not a fan of Josh Gad. I just don't really pay attention to Josh Gad. So him coming on with Mel Brooks, I'm excited for Mel Brooks to be attached. I don't really have much with Josh Gad. My suspicion when it says that Josh Gad is going to star, my immediate thought is if they're going to try and do something legacy sequel wise and they bring people back, maybe he's taking over John Candy's Barf character because, you know, John Candy's unfortunately not around anymore. But that's what one of the things about Spaceballs that gets me excited too is you can do the legacy sequel spoofs. You can do the landscape of Star Wars and Star Trek and where they're at now, how sci-fi has changed. We can get some Avatar parody thrown in here, and the technology has changed too, so they can do some fun stuff with how technology has advanced. My big question though, because he's teased it before, but he's never fully come to fulfill it, is Rick Moranis coming out of retirement to do Dark Helmet. Because arguably Spaceballs works because Rick Moranis works as Dark Helmet. He has some of the best moments in Spaceballs. He in some ways carries the movie with his little side bits. He is so funny. He's so great. You could get Bill Pullman to come back. I don't see that being a problem. I could see him coming in there, maybe doing a little spoof on how Han Solo died in Force Awakens, doing something in space. I think you could do something with this kid. There's just so much that you could do with Spaceballs in this time of just our lives in pulp culture, that while I am a little bit like, I love Spaceballs, don't touch it, just let it rest, I'm excited to see what they could pull off with Spaceballs too. There's some really great opportunities in here to be really funny, and the writers that they have on board have been funny in the past. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with this. And I think it's smart to put it on Amazon. I don't think it would do that well in the box office. But Zach, have you seen Spaceballs? What are your thoughts on Spaceballs? How do you feel about Spaceballs 2? Is it too little, too late, or do you think it's the perfect time to do this?
To no one's surprise, I have not seen Spaceballs, as I haven't seen a bunch of classic movies, but it will be definitely something I'm going to check out eventually. It's always been on my list, just never watched it. 2, we talked about this before. We talked about how they're going to be rebooting Scary Movie, which is a parody franchise.
That's right.
I've talked about on my channel how they're rebooting Naked Gun, which is a parody franchise about like the James Bond kind of spy thing.
Liam Neeson's going to be in that one, right?
Liam Neeson's going to be in there. I forgot who's playing his wife. She's also someone that's going to be pretty funny. So it looks like the parody movie is back on its way. And I think that this is the perfect time. We have a slew of new different kind of IPs and things like that. You talk about how they can make fun of the state of Star Wars and even take about the fandom Star Trek. They can either, nobody cares about Star Trek no more or something like that. Or like in a funnier way than that. Obviously, I'm not the writers.
They name dropped Star Trek in the first Spaceballs, so they're not above doing that.
They could do that. They can parody Dune. I think that's right.
Oh, yes.
By the time this movie comes out, we'll probably, Dune 1 and 2 is out. We'll probably have the show. You might even have Dune 3 before this is made. And then, like you said, Avatar. We can get into some of these indie stuff that people like Ex Machina and how that talks about AI. They can incorporate that in there. And I think that parody movies of classic things coming back and parodying the last 10 years is a perfect opportunity. So even though I don't know Spaceballs, but the fact that it's so beloved, and the fact that I'm down for parodies of the stuff that we have now, especially the highbrow crap that we have now, I think it will be perfect. I think it will be really, really perfect. I didn't know who the writers, like when I was covering this yesterday, I didn't know what the writer's background was. I only knew the director, right? The director is the guy who did Barber and Vista, which is a great comedy film about older ladies, and kind of a parody on like recently we've been getting a lot of movies of like older actresses getting together, going away. It's kind of parody on that. And then
80 for 80 kind of thing.
Yeah. And then we have Strays. He directed Strays. And I really liked that movie. And I thought it was really, really funny. Yeah. And he made a lot of great references and breaking the fourth wall. And that's kind of the stuff I feel like you need to bring over to Spaceballs, right?
I'd appreciate less dog dong, though.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a lot of
dogs. Little less dog
just
things going on there.
10 less dogs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's a really solid director to bring here with these now incredible writers you're talking about, because I think the writing is more important than the director. I think that this could be really, and if they do a combination of like Rick Moranis and what was it, Bill Pullman is his name?
Pullman, yeah.
Pullman, and then whoever else they can get from the old cast to come in, and then have Josh Gad and a bunch of new young people and mix them together, I think it could be a really big hit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you guys think of this? I mean, Spaceballs is coming back. Do you think they'll call it The Search for More Money? Do you think
they kind of have to, right? Like that's the fandom thing. That's how you get the fans into it, because now they're going like, oh, you're respecting us.
Yeah, I agree. I think they got to call it The Search for More Money. If not, What are you even doing with it? Well, thank you very much for checking out this clip from our live show that we do every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time called Zach Milne Talks Live. If you like talking movies, if you like talking movie news, why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button before you leave? We do that on this channel all the time. But if you still need some time before you fully commit, you can check out the full video this clip is from right here, and you can check out another video over here. The subscribe button's right here.